Beat. Iran as a nation is arguably facing its greatest civilizational crisis in centuries. Geopolitically, Iran has suffered setback after setback in its long confrontation with Israel. Its overseas proxies, Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, and the Assad regime in Syria, have been crippled or destroyed, exposing the Iranian heartland to direct attacks. U.S. and Israeli warplanes have struck sensitive military and nuclear sites with impunity. An American-mediated Armenia-Azerbaijan peace threatens a corridor of Turkish influence along Iran's north, complicating access to Russia. Instability to the east under the Taliban has sparked unpredictable border skirmishes and mass deportations of undocumented Afghans. Beat. Yet Iran's greatest contemporary threat is internal and environmental, running out of water in a modern major society. With more than 92 million people, Iran's water crisis is a global concern. In Tehran, roughly 10 million residents, about 11% of the nation, consume around a quarter of Iran's water. 70% of Tehran's water usually comes from nearby dams and reservoirs, Amir Kabir, Lar, and Latian, now at critically low levels. Tehran's typical annual rainfall is about 260 millimeters. In 2024, it was 140, with 2025 preliminaries near 100. Reservoirs that averaged 618 million cubic meters fell to 485 million in 2024, then to just 258 million by September 2025, half gone in a year. At Latian, capacity shrank by more than 90%, down to roughly 9 million cubic meters. Aquifers are collapsing after decades of overuse, accelerating land subsidence and threatening buildings and infrastructure. In summer 2025, taps were cut for half a day amid 100 degrees of heat, triggering power cuts and rolling blackouts. In late 2024, offices, schools, and banks closed on bad weather days to conserve power. A 4-day summer work week was floated. Water rationing cuts supply 3 to 6 hours daily. Low pressure leaves high rises dry, forcing residents to carry water upstairs. Questions now loom over Tehran's long-term habitability. Officials have even studied relocating the capital to the south near the Persian Gulf. Beat. But the crisis is nationwide. Reservoirs are running dry and lakes are disappearing from north to south, east to west. IRNA reported in October 2025 that 19 of the largest reservoirs verge on complete dryness. 3 already hit 0% capacity. Lake Urmia, once the Middle East's largest lake, has nearly dried up, leaving salt flats and dust. Over 280 cities face extreme water stress. In Yazd, taps ran dry in March 2025, with tankers and bottled water supplying residents for days. Hundreds of villages now rely entirely on tanker trucks after wells ran dry. Cities are literally sinking as aquifers deplete. Cracks are forming in rail lines linking major cities. Officials warn of a looming day zero in Tehran and beyond. The day taps run completely dry. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu released a video in August 2025 urging Iranians to rise up, promising water expertise after freedom. Though an ill-chosen messenger, he was not wrong. Water is the regime's strategic vulnerability, stoking ethnic fault lines and grievances. Beat. To understand how Iran reached water bankruptcy, we go back to the late 1940s under the Shah. In 1949, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi visited Hoover Dam and Lake Mead, inspiring monumental dams in Iran's arid climate. U.S. assistance brought modern irrigation and drilling, enabling rapid aquifer drawdown. Iran's water is unevenly distributed, lush Caspian coast with 220 mm rainfall versus arid central plateau and southern lowlands under 100 mm. The Shah pushed diversions and dams and sited water-hungry steel and petrochemical plants in dry central regions like Isfahan and Fars. Land reforms in the 1960s promoted mechanized farming, accelerating abandonment of ancient Khanate irrigation in favor of deep motorized wells. Beat. After 1979, sanctions and the Iran-Iraq War drove policies of self-sufficiency. More dams, more wells, more withdrawals. The IRGC pivoted to a reconstruction jihad, building vast water projects through tightly linked firms with little oversight. The water mafia. Hundreds of dams rose without environmental studies. Diversions fed regime-linked industries over farms and cities. In Khuzestan, the Gadir-Karun mega-projects intensified salinity downstream after reservoir filling, harming Arab communities. By 2018, Iran had 647 dams, double 2012, and many heavy industries in the Central Plateau, far from open water. The Zayandeh Rud has been reduced to a seasonal mudflat, plaguing Isfahan. Lake Urmia's death worsened dust storms, respiratory problems, and regional migration. Farmland around Urmia more than doubled since 1979, requiring 4.55 billion cubic meters against a 4 billion watershed, pushing illegal wells. Legal wells rose from 460,000 to 794,000 between 2002 and 2015, plus many unregistered. Iran ranks 5th globally for groundwater depletion. Roughly 200 to 500 billion cubic meters of fossil water is gone forever. Despite 50% more wells, extraction has declined about 10%. They're simply running out. Iran has 1% of the world's people, but 9% of its groundwater extraction. Half of aquifers are critically low. 6 major cities, including Tehran, rank among the top globally for subsidence. The global critical threshold is 4 mm per year. Many Iranian areas sink 12 or 10 centimeters, some up to 31 centimeters annually. In Tehran, groundwater fell over 12 meters in 2 decades. In Isfahan, a 23 billion cubic meter void underlies the city, imperiling critical sites and schools. Inefficiency worsens scarcity. About 90% of water goes to agriculture, yet irrigation efficiency is roughly 30%. Cities lose 25 to 30% of municipal water through leaks and outdated systems, compared to under 10% in the global north. Sanctions limit access to modern tech, yet post-2015 relief went to more dams and transfers instead of reforms. Iran consumes roughly double Turkey's annual water, despite similar populations. Per capita availability has plunged since 1979, from about 4,500 cubic meters per person per year in 1979 to roughly 1,100 today. Beat. Climate change hits Iran hard. Average temperatures rose to 1.8 decay in 3 decades, about 4 times the global rate. A near-continuous drought since 2020 has cut annual rainfall by 30%, limiting natural replenishment. Projections point to another 2.6 degrees warming, and chakra 35% less rainfall in coming decades. Ironically, as a major hydrocarbon state, Iran emits heavily while remaining highly vulnerable. Renewables are under 1% of the energy mix. Beat. The Taliban are further throttling Iran's water. The Hari River, rising in Afghanistan, supplies Mashhad. Since 2021, Afghanistan has advanced the Pashdan Dam, threatening Mashhad's supply and forcing diversions from elsewhere. Filling upstream has left the downstream Dosti Reservoir near dry. Khorasan province faces the worst rainfall deficit. Afghanistan never signed a Hari River Treaty, but on the Helmand, a 1973 accord guarantees Iran 820 million cubic meters annually. Post-2021, new Afghan dams and diversions, like Kamal Khan, reduced downstream flows despite the treaty. Iran says only 100 million cubic meters arrived in 2025, far below the 820 guaranteed, drying the Hamoun wetlands and driving dust, crop loss, and migration. Tensions are rising. Brief clashes occurred in 2023. In 2025, Iran escalated deportations of Afghan migrants, pressuring Kabul over water. Beat. Solutions exist: drip irrigation, leak repair, wastewater recycling, and desalination, but time is running short. Without urgent reform, Iran's water emergency could reshape its society and the region.